Hi, I'm Lisa with Victron Printing, and you're watching 21st Pilots Lounge.
Welcome to 21st Pilots Lounge. We have the amazing Ash. So how are you doing today, Ash? Welcome in. How are
I'm
you?
doing all right. Thanks for having me on.
I've been following you for a couple years now. You're
Oh wow,
more,
thank you.
yeah. Can you tell us about Little Ash and how you grew up into who you are now?
Little Ash was very much into Spider-Man as a child, so
Really?
I've been a fan pretty much for as long as I can remember.
Hmm.
I grew up watching the first two Raimi movies on repeat all the time, so I had a ton of toys, I had the costumes, I had everything. And Spider-Man 3 was actually the first movie I remember seeing in theaters. So Spider-Man's always been like a pretty big part of my childhood, and now I've grown into this. So
You grew into the Spider-Man themselves, it seems.
yeah.
So, what made you want to continue doing it as an adult? Did you like go to cons growing up, or like where did anyone inspire you?
Yeah, I started going to cons back in, I think it was 2014 was my first convention.
Hmm.
And it was a Walker Stalker Con because I was a really big fan of The Walking Dead at the time. And I had kind of just decided as soon as I got tickets that I wanted to dress up as somebody. And I ended up going with Carl because he was my favorite character. But
Hmm.
pretty much since then, I've just always been drawn to it. I really enjoyed dressing up that first time, even though it was an awful costume. I had not been going for accuracy at the time as I would now. So. Yeah, I've been into it for a while now, and now I finally feel like I've gotten to a more professional level of it than I did back then.
Definitely professional level. I see all your posts there of you actually crafting some of your costumes. Was that the first costume that you made?
This was the first one that I painted, I think.
Hmm.
I can't remember actually. It was either this or my red Raimi suit. This one took around 8 months to paint, I think, in
Really?
total. Well, this is my only suit that has the full textures painted.
Hmm.
So it took a lot longer than if you were to just do like the web lines. But yeah, this
Hmm.
was the first like big cosplay that I did, I would say.
You used acrylic paint? Is that what you said?
Puffy paint.
Puffy. What is puffy paint? Like, what do you use it for normally?
It's basically I use like Tulip brand, but I think there's a few different brands out there now. But it's this like 3D fabric paint.
Hmm.
So when you paint it, the lines are supposed to like stay raised or like the brand or the like type that I'm using was shiny, so it gives like the suit a good shine to it instead of being super raised.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's what makes it stick out pretty much. Like
Mm.
adds a layer. It's not just like a flat ink.
Yeah.
Okay, crazy. That is. I didn't know what that was until now. We all know that Spider-Man. He comes from a very tragic origin. What was it about the character of Spider-Man, or just Peter Parker in general, that drew you to him, that inspired you to dress up as him almost every day?
I would say it's just I think I find him to be the most relatable as far as like superheroes go. And just like I always admired that like no matter what he goes through, he always gets back up and he keeps fighting and he always has a reason to keep going. And I always just really liked that and resonated with that.
The desire for justice for people, even though you're
Mm.
not a superhero yourself. Whenever you see someone else go through something like that, can you relate to that and think? In other words, did you ever go through something that Peter Parker did? you know, is that?
Not to like the same degree, but I think
Mhm.
everybody has their own things that they've gone through and that they
Yeah.
have to try to fight through and get through on their own. So just anytime I see like a friend struggling, I always try to reach out and help however I can and do what I
Mhm.
can to help.
That's good. That the same here. Like, it's. I think that's what a lot of people like about Spider-Man is the perseverance. The
Mhm.
the fact that even though he's usually shunned and ignored by the general public, and he's not praised like Iron Man or Captain America or the Avengers, kind of the underdog hero. So
Mhm.
I totally can agree with you there. Like, yeah, no matter what, he keeps going. He still maintains his character no matter what. As far as the comics go, do you actually read the comics? Like, are you familiar with a lot of the arcs, or do you have like a favorite arc at all?
I haven't read the main like Amazing Spider-Man continuity just because I never really got into it.
Really?
I'm currently reading Ultimate Spider-Man, which I've really been enjoying so far,
Hmm.
the new run of it. Um, but I don't read a whole lot of like full stories. I prefer to just read like one-off like story arcs. Like
Mm-hmm.
Life Story and Spider-Man Blue are two of my absolute favorites. So I'd say I tend to lean more towards like shorter stories than full-length arcs.
Yeah, because those the full length arcs used to like span years and like hundreds of
Exactly.
issues like back in the day. Were you ever familiar with like the older stories like Maximum Carnage or Web of Spider-Man, anything like that?
I haven't read any of them myself. I've heard like bits and pieces of some of them, but they were
Mm-hmm.
kind of just some stories that felt like too much to dive into when you're starting with no knowledge of the current story. So I kind of just
Mm-hmm.
strayed away from that a little bit.
Gotcha. I grew up with the '90s Spider-Man, like the Maximum Carnage arc, which was really big then. Like I said earlier, like no matter what Spider-Man maintained his character, like I think that was a huge decade for Spider-Man,
Mhm.
where I don't know if you're familiar with it at all, where he broke his ribs, he broke his character for the first time. He was I don't know if you remember that panel of him like raising his arms up in the flames behind him, and he said, "Fine, if you're gonna act like animals, I'll treat you like animals. You're not gonna get any more mercy from Spider-Man." And I'm like, "What?"
Yeah,
He said, "What now? Is he gonna kill people?" Like, wait a minute, hold on. Did he
yeah.
broke his character? He was broken for the first time, and that was huge. It was such like a violent and such a kind of like a more mature era for Spider-Man. It was adult Spider-Man. He was like past after college. He was already married to Mary Jane, and there was a lot of murder and blood, and like it was just such a crazy like it's just not the Spider-Man you grew up with, like Amazing Spider-Man and his friends, and I noticed that you recently made a spectacular Spider-Man costume,
Mhm.
which looks really awesome, by the way. So is that one that you got commissioned?
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I commissioned there's a pretty prominent spectacular pattern maker called Jaegercore. He has a ton of like mashup spectacular patterns. Like I know he got pretty popular for his PS4 spectacular mashup,
Hmm.
which was actually the suit I had intended to do this year. I
Hmm.
actually bought that pattern from him a couple months ago, and that's the suit I was gonna get until I stumbled across an art piece somewhere where somebody had done a mashup of all the different live action suits as spectacular suits, and I it just kind of hit me. I was like, why has nobody done a TASM one like spectacular suit yet? So I sent him a message and we talked a bit, and he ended up making the pattern for me, and I was just over the moon with how it came out. I'm really really happy with it.
So you also like support other like Spider-Man cosplayers or like just
Oh, of course. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I try to shout out creators wherever I can. I make sure I put all the credits in my captions and everybody gets credit where credit's due.
Definitely. Yeah, that's cool how you do that. You gotta pay it back. You gotta pay it forward. So really quick, I
Sure.
actually wanted to dive into your page here real quick. We'll kind of show everyone what we're talking about here. All right, so here is her Instagram page, folks. Please definitely check her out, give her a follow. So I noticed here that you have a lot of amazing photos, no pun intended. Um, and I think what stands out the most personally, and we'll get to this later, is Clancy. You definitely have a love for 21 Pilots, which we'll get to in a minute. But I wanted to ask you about like your interactions with meeting the people that have played Spider-Man, the actors here, or just celebrities in general. Can you tell us about this when you met Andrew Garfield?
It was incredibly surreal.
Mm-hmm.
It's well, it happened very, very quickly because I don't know if I'm sure you've done conventions and stuff, and I don't
Yeah.
know if you've done photo ops. Like, it's fast.
Yes.
They're, especially when it's somebody as big as Andrew Garfield is, they're really pushing you through to get through that photo as quickly as possible.
Yeah.
So I didn't really have a chance to like talk to him or show him the suit as much. It was kind of just like, can we do this pose? And then like I said thank you and walked out. So
Oh, okay.
it wasn't a super long or like crazy meeting or anything, but he was really really nice and he seemed just happy to be there, contrary to what a lot of people seem to think. A lot of
Hmm.
people thought his photos came out pretty awkward, but he did seem like he was enjoying himself and having a good time. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm pretty sure this was his first convention appearance, so like
Hmm.
that can be overwhelming for anybody, I'm sure. So, but
Really?
he was incredibly kind and he seemed really nice, and I was really just excited for the opportunity to meet him at all.
It's such a surreal experience, like you said. Like you really don't know what to say, I guess, like when you first go up there, unless you had like a confession in mind or had wrote a poem. Like in this case, you just wanted to shoot webs with him. I'm sure.
Yeah.
That just shows the love for the character that there's a lot of actors that don't embrace playing superheroes, like Michael Keaton, for example. He doesn't want to be typecasted as Batman, but Andrew wants to play Spider-Man again.
Yeah.
You could tell that just how outgoing he was about No Way Home, and even today. So the fact
Yeah.
that he showed up here to be able to celebrate that and meet the people. That's one thing I loved about the trilogies, the movies of Spider-Man. They touch base with different eras of kids. Like for me,
Hmm.
it was Toby, you, Andrew Garfield, and younger than us, Tom Holland, which you love Tom still too, right? So, but
Yeah.
your number one favorite is Andrew, right?
I wouldn't
Or
say I have a favorite only
mm,
because it depends on my mood.
oh, okay.
I jump back and
Mhm.
forth based on like what movie I'm in the mood to watch today.
So that's a real hardcore fan there. Like you don't have just one favorite, but
Yeah,
like
they're all
mhm.
good. I think they all killed it in the role.
Right, same. I think they all made great Peter Parkers and Spider-Man. Just some of the movies didn't hit it out of the park, but
For a while, I
yeah,
just straight up refused to answer the question.
really.
This was back before I had met Andrew, because I would always tell people I was like, "Well, I grew up with Tobey Maguire, but then I kind of fell out of it for a couple years, as kids grow up, and then I got back into it with Andrew Garfield. So like he brought me back to the role.
Hmm.
Um, but I've met Tom Holland, and once you look into that man's eyes, it's hard to go back."
I was gonna ask you, what was it like meeting him? Like,
Oh my god, he was so nice. That poor man was just they overbooked him for that con really, really hard.
oh
So
really?
it's the convention had already closed and he still had a ton of like photo ops to do still. So I felt really bad because they were like really trying to rush him through and I heard that he wasn't treated great at that convention.
Really?
But even through all of that, he was still like he was so incredibly kind and he tried to take as much time with everybody as he could
Hmm.
and just he was so nice and for me it was fun because the pose that I wanted to do, I wanted us to be looking at each other.
Hmm.
So we were holding hands and I asked him to do that and the photographer didn't know what was going on. So they were like just waiting for us to turn to the camera and we're just looking at each other. So we're just like sitting there holding hands and staring into each other's eyes for a really long time. And then they finally go to take the picture right as Tom turned to be like, "It's you guys could take the photo." So then
Hmm.
they ended up having to redo it. So I like he just held me for longer and it was great.
Oh, I bet you loved it when he held you for much
Oh
longer.
yeah,
That
that was a time for me.
Oh my. Yeah, he is a handsome man. He did a great job, playing a young Peter Parker. Can't wait to see what's going to happen beyond, because the end of No Way Home, he puts on the old, what villains do you want to see in the next movie? Like what story arc would you want to see in the next one?
I want to see a street level Spider-Man. That's all I
Okay.
want. I don't want crossovers. I don't
Hmm.
want multiverse stuff. I don't want Venom yet. I want a low level just Spider-Man street story. I
Hmm.
wouldn't say I really have a preference as far as like villains, but I do think it would be cool to have like the Kingpin introduced.
Yes.
Um
Hmm.
but like at the same time, I don't want a crossover yet.
Hmm.
I just want Tom to have one movie that's just his. It's after that we can bring in Daredevil, we can bring in whoever you want, but like I want one movie that's just him.
Yeah.
So like I want a street level villain that like he can handle himself and just that's the story I really want to see. Cuz I feel like Tom hasn't really gotten that chance yet.
Yeah, he's kind of, even in his solo films, he kind of had to have someone else carry him character wise, which,
Yeah.
it was an origin trilogy. So yeah, I would love to see a street level too. As I like that term you used. So
Mm.
Ned turning into the Goblin, would you want to see that?
I'm
Because they don't know each other right now.
yes and no. I don't know.
Hmm.
The idea of it intrigues me, but like
Yeah,
I liked Ned as like the sidekick and guy in the chair.
the guy in the
I really
chair.
enjoyed his character. He brought a really good level of like comic relief to that trilogy
Yep.
that I really enjoyed. That I don't think I it just felt like we didn't get that outside of like actual Spider-Man quips in
Hmm.
either of the other two franchises. So like it was nice to have some another character be that.
Hmm.
So like I kind of want him to just stay as Ned, but like if he became the Goblin, I wouldn't be against it.
Me
I
neither.
guess.
That would be interesting to find out how him and MJ are gonna get refamiliarized with Peter. It's like, are they going to kill him off and have Doctor Strange bring in the other ones that knew him? Like, who knows what's going to happen? you know.
Yeah, we'll see.
I mean, other aside from the Insomniac games, which we all love, I haven't played the second one yet because I don't have a PS5.
Oh.
Yeah, I'm waiting for a PC port. Which ones have you played? Do you have a favorite outside of that series?
I honestly haven't played a whole lot of them. Because like I wasn't a big video game kid. That was
Really?
more like my brothers growing up played video games, but I
Hmm.
didn't really. So I didn't really play a whole lot. I had one of those like joystick Spider-Man games, and that
Oh.
was pretty much the extent for me. I wasn't really a huge gamer outside of that. So
Mm.
I don't think I really want to play like the Ultimate Spider-Man game. I've heard great things about, and then of course like the usual Shattered Dimensions, Web of Shadows, all those I would love to play, but
Hmm.
I don't know anything about them.
Oh, okay. I was gonna ask you if you
Yeah.
actually played those, because
No, I
they came.
haven't. I would like to. They're just it's expensive to get copies of those games, and it's like they're all for older consoles. So
Yeah.
like if you don't have one of those consoles, you're kind of
Hmm.
just SOL.
So you never played any of the old 16-bit like?
Nope.
Oh, I highly recommend the Maximum Carnage game. That's a lot of
Okay.
fun. There's an original, and it's funny you brought up the Kingpin. I was actually playing earlier the original on the Sega Genesis. I don't know if you ever played on one of those. Um,
No, that one's before my time.
oh, okay. Yeah, there was a Spider-Man game on there that I grew up with. And it's called Spider-Man versus the Kingpin. It's the really one of the first major arcs he had with Spider-Man, where he frames Spider-Man for planting a nuclear bomb somewhere in New York City, and you have to collect keys from the villains. We didn't have a lot of Spider-Man stuff as much back then, media-wise, other than the comics and whatever TV shows were out. This is before the Tobey Maguire movies, and all we had were just cartoons and comics. So having a really good video game like that helped boosted Spider-Man's interest in the early 90s. Elizabeth Olsen, the youngest Olsen, I think she's the youngest, but
I think so.
and who is this? Is this like a friend next to you, or is that?
Yeah,
Hmm?
actually, his name is Henry. I
Hmm.
met him in line for my Andrew Garfield photo.
Oh.
And we were talking while we were in line, and I was telling him, I was like, yeah, I came down here just for Andrew. I wasn't really, because I bought everything last minute because this was a super last minute trip.
Hmm.
And I was like, yeah, I didn't really have the money to like be able to meet anybody else at the time. And he was like, oh, well, if you want, you can come into my photos with me. And I
Oh.
was just like in shock. I was like, are you sure? Like, these are expensive photos. I don't want to like take your photo from you. And he's like, no, I would love it. Like, I'd love having company. I'd love if you came in with me. So
Hmm.
I was like, okay, like, oh, if you're sure. So, just for his photos for the rest of the day, we met up and he just invited me in. And I was incredibly grateful to him for that. That was like the nicest thing anybody's ever done for me at a con.
Oh wow! So
Yeah.
he actually paid for the photo, and you just jumped in there. Oh, that's awesome. Yeah,
Yeah,
those.
I did end
Yeah.
up, I felt bad, so I gave him some cash at the end of the day because I like those are expensive photos. I wouldn't feel right just not giving him anything. So,
Gotcha.
yeah.
Yeah, I would do the same. Like, I don't like it when people pay stuff for me. What do you think about the MCU and the MCU films and the TV shows?
I was very much into the MCU up
Mm.
until like I want to say Multiverse of Madness is kind of where I fell off and stopped being super into it. Like I think the last show that I watched was I had started What If season 1 and
Mm.
I watched like up to the Spider-Man episode and then I don't think I watched anything after that of any of the Marvel shows. I loved WandaVision and I loved her character up until Endgame. I thought she did an
Mhm.
incredible job. She's a great actress and she is stunning in real life, by the way. So I
Yeah,
was really really excited to meet her.
I can understand where you fell off with Multiverse of Madness. That movie was just a debacle of I don't want to say a dumpster fire. There were some parts that were cool. Like, it was directed by Sam Raimi.
Like it had its moments, but
Yeah.
I have a hard time getting into the current MCU. I can't really handle it anymore.
Yeah, after, superhero fatigue. I mean, I'm sure you feel it.
Oh,
Um,
of course, yeah.
just after No Way Home, like, I think that was like the last post Endgame film, in my opinion, that really stood out the most.
Yeah, I would agree.
Right, and unbiasedly, right? Unbiased. But yeah, I don't know, because that crossover was just so desired. They could have done that crossover anytime. They could have totally
Yeah.
skipped Far From Home and just did No Way Home. Two movies. That would be cool if we got two movies of that. And this is Haley Steinfeld.
Hmm.
Wow, she really is super tall in real life.
Yeah, she is.
Wow. Did you ever watch the Hawkeye show? or
No, no,
really?
but
Oh.
I knew her from she voices Gwen in Spider-Verse.
Yes, she
So
did. Yeah.
yeah, so I was that was the main reason I wanted to meet her. I unfortunately by the time I ended up buying my tickets, her autographs and stuff were sold out, but she was like my
Uh,
second choice to meet. I really wanted to meet her, so I was really glad I got to.
yeah, she was also awesome in Bumblebee. I really love that movie.
I haven't
So
seen that.
you need to. Are you into Transformers at all?
I was when I was like really little, but it wasn't something that really stuck with me.
Oh,
So I'll
gotcha.
have to get back into it someday.
Yeah, if you like Haley Steinfeld, you will love Bumblebee. She's like just amazing in that film. Yeah, I just finished watching Across the Spider Verse, and
Oh,
that
nice.
movie was so good. I loved all the cameos in the that Spider-Man world, the web, and how Spider-Man 2099 was kind of like the head of it, and Peter Parker had like his daughter with him the whole time,
Mhm.
and it was just such a fun film. Like Miles Morales is just such a great character.
For
So,
sure.
what is your opinion on Miles? Like, do you think he's a good predecessor to Spider-Man? Do you think he's a little overpowered, or?
I think he's a great character. I think he's a
Mhm.
perfect follow-up for Peter once Peter decides he doesn't want to do this anymore.
Mhm.
My first introduction to Miles was Spider-Verse, as I'm sure for many people.
Yeah.
And I got super, super into his character after that. Like
Mhm.
I really enjoy his arc in like the PlayStation Insomniac games.
Yeah.
I love that iteration of Miles. So
Uh,
yeah, I love his character.
oh my God, is that Captain Marvel herself, Brie Larson?
Yeah,
Wow. I think that she was pretty new to the con world too.
I
Um,
think so.
did you see a lot of Captain Marvels in the in the
Mhm.
line? Like a lot of
Yeah, there was quite a few. What's
cool.
funny is a
Mhm.
lot of people I've gotten a lot of comments in the past of people telling me that I look like her, and I
Really?
never really saw it, so I figured now that we're side by side, everybody can draw their own conclusions.
I guess if you were a blonde, I could see it, but
Maybe.
yeah, dirty blonde. Yeah, Captain Marvel. Brie Larson is a prime example for, I guess, like the taste of Hollywood. Like she's pretty inevitable for like not landing a lot of major roles. Like even in
Hmm.
Star Wars and other big franchises that she tried out for. And there's all the criticism about her not being a good Captain Marvel. Like she wasn't emotional enough. Did
Mhm.
you enjoy it, or
I
for what
did.
it was? Like,
Yeah,
or
I thought it was a fine movie. I
mhm,
think it was a little like, as far as the overall story goes, it did feel a little like shoehorned in. But as far as
mhm.
like the movie itself and like her acting, I thought she did an incredible job.
Yeah, she did. I think she portrayed the role of Captain Marvel very well as like a human. I mean, like she had like the chip on her shoulder attitude. She was in the Air Force and like she didn't just let anyone walk all over her. She was always a strong character. So
Yeah,
I think they got that down pretty well. And
I agree.
so is this is from the con superhero
Mhm.
Comic Con. Cool.
Yeah, this was just they
Mhm.
had like souvenir lanyards, and since Andrew
Mhm.
was the only person I was supposed to meet, his was the only one I picked up.
Oh, of course. Alrighty. And this is all fan art. You got Pedro
Mhm.
Pascal, Nick Cage for some reason, or
Yeah,
both.
this was a meme
Yeah.
from when they did a movie together. This was a really popular meme that went around at the time. So as soon as I saw art of it, I was like, "Oh yeah, I'm buying that." The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent, which I actually haven't seen. I really want to watch it, but I
Hmm.
haven't seen it yet. But I know there's this one scene of them like looking at each other in the car, and that's the moment from it, and it was going around for a while.
Interesting. And
Yeah.
is that the PS? Is that the Insomniac Spider-Man? Uh,
Mhm. Yeah, I
okay.
think it was just meant to be like a classic, his classic suit from
Hmm.
that.
So conventions. Are you a big con girl? Like, do you go to them all the time? Like,
For sure. I
hmm.
I love conventions since I think I said 2014 was my first one. I've
Hmm.
gone to a ton since then. I
Hmm.
had to cut back a bit this year just because I'm trying to budget for some more expensive cosplays.
Hmm.
But so I had to cancel. I was supposed to go to Fan Expo Boston this year, but I ended up skipping that.
Hmm.
Um
Gotcha.
so hopefully next year though. I am planning to do Rhode Island Comic Con at the end of this year though. Hopefully anyway.
New York Comic Con, is that up on your list?
It's kind of like difficult to get tickets for that
Hmm.
one. And it's also further because for me, I'd have to take the train to get there. So it's like I would have to make like a whole weekend out of it if I did go.
Hmm.
I'd love to at some point, but it's not really looking like it's in my budget, at least for this year.
Gotcha. That would be super cool if you made it out there one day. I think like because like I went to Times Square once. I don't know if you've been to New York City before, right?
Yeah,
So like
yeah, a
in
few
Times
times.
Square they got like the bootleg characters out taking pictures,
Mhm.
and I'm just like, wait, this is the best they can do here. We're in New York City. It's like, what? That's a
Yeah.
short little chubby spider. It's like, wait a minute. I think everyone's gonna want your picture once you get out there. So,
Well,
um,
someday.
yeah, I think that would be the coolest place to do a photo shoot. Definitely.
Oh yeah.
I love all these like urban settings here for your photos. So this is your spectacular Spider-Man costume, your latest one, right?
Mhm.
Um, was this like a favorite series of yours, or
I'd
like?
say it's my favorite Spider-Man show as
Mhm,
of now. It's which I didn't watch it at the time it was on TV. I
mhm,
had kind of picked it up a couple years after that.
mhm.
But I got super like invested, and I'm still heartbroken that it didn't get a third season.
I never actually watched that show all that much, but I remember it being very. I mean, it looked very kiddish. Like the animation
Mhm.
style is very simple, and but
Yeah, for sure.
I remember watching an episode. I forgot which one it was, but it was actually really touching based on the Eddie Brock character. Like he was like a jock in in that show. Did you ever watch the original '90s Spider-Man show
Mhm.
animated
Yeah.
series? Yeah,
Yep.
kind of like that. Even though it was very cartoonish, but the
Yeah.
tone was pretty dark. Whenever you get a new costume, what is your goal with each one?
It kind of it varies from costume to costume,
Mhm.
I would say, because like
Yeah.
when I first bought this suit, I hadn't decided if I wanted to paint it or not. I had
Mhm.
just like I had always loved this costume. Like from the
Mhm.
first time I saw this movie, I loved this costume, so I wanted to have my own version of it.
Mhm.
And I hadn't started my account yet. So like
Oh.
I wasn't posting for anybody. Like I was just a cosplayer who like would wear suits to cons and stuff.
Mhm.
And then I made this account like right around the time that I started painting this suit, and that's how I kind of like got my start.
Mhm.
So I would say now that I have an account and somewhere to post content, I do kind of come at costumes from like a content angle on like what could I get out of this and what could I do with it. But sometimes suits are like just for me. Like my custom suit, my Spider Sona, that was just for me. That was
Oh,
like
okay.
I had no intention of painting it. I was like I just want a suit that is mine.
Mhm. Oh,
It
okay.
definitely it depends. And then I have some non-Spider-Man cosplays coming soon that are probably not going to do very well, but I'm not doing it for that. I'm doing it just because they're costumes I really want to do. So,
Gotcha. I was gonna actually ask you about non-Spider-Man cosplay coming up. So you definitely have some coming on down the pipeline.
mhm.
Can you
I do,
tell us
yeah.
if they're Marvel related, or do you want to keep it a surprise?
No, I don't have any other Marvel ones.
Oh, okay.
At least outside of Spider People.
Gotcha. Gotcha.
Yeah,
Outside of the
but
Spider Verse.
yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah, nothing really there. There was a time where I was gonna do a Scarlet Witch costume, but I kind of fell out of it. I didn't really go decide to go through with it.
Why not? I think you would make a good Wanda. I think.
It for me at the time it was just going to be too much of an investment for a costume I didn't think I
Hmm.
was going to get its worth out of.
Hmm.
So, maybe
Gotcha.
in the future. I like I said I love Wanda and Scarlet Witch as a character, so maybe
Hmm.
someday in the future I would like to get back into it.
You could probably do Scarlet Spider, even though he's very emo. But you know,
Yeah, maybe.
instead, that was so funny that he just made that little blip in the Spider Verse. I'm like, oh, that's about right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Gosh. But I love how you made some of the props here from the Amazing Spider-Man, which, by the way, is the 12th anniversary
Yeah.
of the Andrew Garfield reboot. So I love how you have the wanted poster. Was this something you printed or like?
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah, I
Hmm.
found because there's two wanted posters. There's one of
Hmm.
Uncle Ben's killer and then one of Spider-Man. So I found both
Hmm.
of those photos and I ended up actually upscaling them myself and I edited them to get them a little bit clearer and then I just printed them out.
Okay. That's awesome. And you have the skateboard, his skateboard with all like the spider DNA and all the physics or the I don't remember that in the movie. Does he ride it on his skateboard like that?
No, he already had it. It's just if you look at like super close
Oh.
photos of his skateboard, that was all already there. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So it's like the scene where he's like doing tricks in the warehouse,
Mhm.
like which I thought that was so cool. Like they put, I'm really into skateboarding, growing up with Tony Hawk and stuff, and the X Games and street skating. So that was really kind of a cool little shindig because you don't really see Part Peter doing that. So,
No,
what's your honest opinion on the second one?
I'm not a fan.
No?
It's
Okay.
it's okay. I'm not a fan of the story. I loved Peter and Gwen. They have great chemistry. I love the costume. I will
Mhm.
be doing the costume at some point. A lot of
Mhm.
people ask me about that. I will at some point.
Mhm.
And like the cinematography was great. That is a beautiful film, but the story is just terrible. And I'm sorry, I'm not a fan of the casting for Harry in that movie. I did not like his Green Goblin. I didn't like his Harry Osborn. I couldn't get into it.
Yeah, they really didn't need him to turn into the Goblin at that film.
No,
Like Jamie Foxx, I thought he was an interesting choice for Electro. What did you think about him?
I had mixed feelings
Hmm.
during TASM 2, but I he won me over in No Way Home. I'll say that. He
Yeah,
definitely he won me over the second time around.
he was definitely better in No Way Home. Yeah, I think they portrayed his character better. Okay, I guess we can kind of get into the conversation of which generation is better. I just want to know what your opinion was on the TASM universe versus the others, and then we'll touch base on the others.
Well, I loved the TASM universe,
Hmm.
even from the first time, because I know TASM 1 was pretty controversial when it first came out,
Yeah.
but I was a fan of it from the first time I saw it.
Hmm.
I liked the reboot. I liked the story they were going with at first. I
Hmm.
felt differently about that after TASM 2, but like as far as TASM 1 went, I liked the story that they went with.
Hmm.
Of like his parents being scientists and all that.
Hmm.
And I liked Dr. Connors. I thought he was a really interesting, like his arc throughout the entire first movie, and then the after credit scene. I was really hoping we were gonna get more of him in the second one. So like I liked it. I thought it had a really good vibe. That was a good era for Spider-Man, I think.
I love how they kind of touch base different aspects of his origin. We never really get to see Peter's parents at all, so I thought that was like a good thing to delve into. And then I
Yeah,
think there was the deleted scene after two. Spoilers alert, where we see his dad come and visit Peter at the graveyard.
yeah,
And I don't know, like did when you saw like you know about like the original plan for TASM 3, right?
mhm, yeah.
Like
With
with
the Sinister Six and everything.
see that part would have been awesome because that would have been cool to see. Like, I mean, we kind of got a taste of that in No Way Home, kind of
A little bit, yeah.
a little bit, but like actually seeing like them in action against Spider-Man and like seeing what Mary Jane would have been like in that universe. And but I think the whole like bringing back Gwen as Spider-Woman, I think that was part of the script.
Oh, was
um
it? I don't remember that part.
like they were gonna clone her. I think that happens
Okay.
sometime in the comic where
Yeah, I'm
uh,
pretty sure it does.
yeah. Or maybe they're gonna do like a Spider Verse thing where she just pops up, which
Maybe.
that would have been a little weirder. But
Yeah.
yeah, just like the original idea they had for three, I don't think it would have saved the trilogy. Like,
No, I don't think so. Because I
mhm,
think TASM 2 suffers from the exact same thing that Spider-Man 3 suffers from,
yeah,
and it's just you tried to put way too much into one movie. You're
yes,
trying to plant too many seeds that like you're losing it now. It's too much to keep track of.
exactly. I think like we got really compact versions of the origin stories of every villain in every movie. I think
Mhm.
like if you're gonna put six villains in one movie, you gotta explain all their origins. I mean, we already had
Exactly.
Rhino, which he wasn't really part of the Sinister Six, but just I don't know. Yeah, it would have been a debacle. Like it probably would have to take place years later, where like the villains were already established, and but the
Yeah,
audience isn't gonna know that. Not everyone is a spider nerd like we are, and you
exactly.
know,
Yeah.
so it wouldn't have played out very well. Thankfully, I mean, maybe, hopefully, Disney and Sony will come together and make a Spider-Man 3. Um, Hopefully, maybe after this last Venom movie, we'll see. We'll see.
See,
What did you think of Tobey Maguire versus Andrew Garfield and Tom Holland?
I think they all have their pros and their cons.
Hmm.
You know, it's like everybody says that one thing of like Toby's a good Peter, Andrew's a good Spider-Man, Tom's a good mix, and I stand by that. I think
Hmm.
they all are good in their own ways. I wouldn't say I have a favorite of the three.
Hmm.
I go through my different phases of like being super hooked on each of them at one time or another. But like the Raimi films hold a lot of nostalgia for me as like growing up with them.
Hmm.
So just those will always hold like a special place in my heart, I think. But like I wasn't upset when it got rebooted or anything. Like I said, I loved TASM, I loved Andrew as Spider-Man. I think he did a great job. And then same with Tom. It's like it was sad to see Andrew go, but it was I welcomed seeing a new face to the role. And I think Tom, he brought his own thing to it, and I think he's really an underappreciated Spider-Man in my opinion.
Really?
Because I don't think he gets enough credit for how much he really has put into the role.
But you really think Tom Holland didn't get the appreciation that he deserved?
I think he got the appreciation from like the Marvel community in general. I don't think he got the appreciation from the Spider-Man community until No Way Home. I think he's gotten it now,
Really?
in my opinion.
Hmm.
But just
Okay.
back then, he was getting a lot of hate back then, from what I saw at least. But I
Yeah.
wasn't super as into the community back then as I am now. So
Mhm.
like, please correct me if I'm wrong. But
I mean, you're not wrong about there being a mixed reaction on Tom, putting on the cowl, and it's a lot, it's big shoes to fill, because there were people
for
at the
sure.
time that loved Andrew Garfield and thought he deserved another movie, and they were wishing Tobey Maguire would just come back, or, well, after three, I think, well, like being from that generation in like 2007, it's like, how great the first two movies were with Toby, like is this three was just a dumpster fire. Even though it made the most money, like it was
Yeah.
still a dumpster fire. It's like, what the is this? What is this
Well, it's
emo?
like as a kid, I
Yeah.
feel like 3 was probably totally my favorite.
Oh, really?
It's like
Okay.
coming from the perspective of like a 6-year-old child, like, yeah, that movie's awesome. But like if you look back and watch it now in your 20s or 30s, you're like, "Oh, that movie was a little rough."
Right, right. At first, I thought it was pretty cool to see because I'm a huge Venom fan. So
Mhm.
even though Topher Grace didn't make the best Eddie Brock, it was cool to see Venom in some form on screen. You know,
Yeah.
that like once I saw that the symbiote crashed from the sky, I was like, okay, they totally rushed the Secret Wars already. They totally scrapped that universe. Although at the end of No Way Home, we saw Tom Hardy at the bar, like, and then a piece of the symbiote stuck around. That might be the Secret Wars right there. I don't know. The Madam Web film didn't do very well, so she's a big part of that too. And
I didn't watch it.
me neither. I was actually thinking about watching that before our interview. What is your favorite film from each era?
Okay, for the Raimi movies, this is gonna be kind of a mixed answer because I think Spider-Man 2 is the best of the 3, but my personal favorite is the first one. I
Mm-hmm.
find that it has the most, like, rewatchability, and it's kind of like a comfort movie of sorts.
Yeah.
Like, I find that anytime I'm having a really bad day or I'm just not feeling great, that's a movie that I always put on to make myself feel better.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm gonna go with Spider-Man 1, even though I think Spider-Man 2 is a better film.
Mm-hmm.
TASM 1, of course, for the Andrew movies. We've established I don't like TASM 2.
Right. Yeah.
Um, it's like I still watch TASM 2 from time to time, but nowhere near as much as I watch the rest of them. And then for Tom's movies, No Way Home, easy.
Mm-hmm.
It's seeing the three of them together on screen. I don't think a movie will ever come close to making me feel what I felt that day. Like
Gotcha.
that was an experience for me.
Yeah. Definitely. It was so exciting in the theater. I totally agree with you on the first movie being the most rewatchable one because I felt like it was the most mature in tone in a way. It was just cool to see how he became Spider-Man and seeing the Green Goblin, seeing the downfall of Norman Osborn, how
Mhm.
emotional that was. And Willem Dafoe killed that role. Like
Absolutely.
no one else should play as the Goblin. Thankfully they brought
Agreed.
him back, in No Way Home. And yeah, so that's the acting, the story, the writing. It captured like somewhat the feel, and of course, Bonesaw McGraw. Bonesaw is probably one of the best parts of that film. You can't. The late Macho Man was just so. It was just so cool to see him in a Spider-Man film.
Mm.
I'm a big wrestling fan, so it's like that was a treat, definitely. As far as two and three, I actually watched three first and then two. Long story, but three, no, it was rough. There are some parts that were funny. There's some
Mhm.
parts that were interesting, and like I mean, I thought it should have ended right there. We didn't need a fourth one because the fourth one sounded like a dumpster fire. Did you ever read about it?
I heard bits and pieces of it. I don't think I ever
Hmm.
sat down and like read the whole thing that came out for it, but I heard about it, yeah.
Like Felicia Hardy was gonna be in it, but not as Black Cat. She was going to be the Vultress, and then the
Yeah,
Vulture was going to
weird.
be in it. Yeah, and
I don't know.
yeah, no, thank God. Sam Raimi just let's just let it be a trilogy.
Yeah. Well, I
So,
will say that
mhm,
when I was a kid, I definitely thought Spider-Man 2 was the most boring. And it wasn't until
really,
rewatching it like in my older years that I was like, "Oh wow, that's actually like a great movie."
yeah, it's like one
So,
of those movies where you don't really engage with it as a kid, and then later
mhm.
on as an adult, like you kind of. I think it's all about giving something a chance again, like in a different part of
Yeah.
life where even though you've seen all these other amazing higher budget films like the Avengers and Disneyizing it, and then you watch that back and it's like different
Well,
perspective.
I also
Yeah.
think it has
Mhm.
a little bit to do with the fact that like Peter's going through it in that
Yeah.
movie. Like this is you see him like he's depressed and he's not doing well. And I don't think that's something kids are entertained by. It's we
No.
want action and we want Spider-Man and he gets the girl and all that. So it's like but looking back now having like grown up and been through your own things, you look back now and realize that that's probably one of the most relatable Spider-Man movies.
Yeah, totally. Um yeah, you're right. That's the primary audience is younger audiences. And the thing is with the Sam Raimi films, like Tobey Maguire was not the most Spider-Man-y Peter Parker. Like I thought Andrew
I get
Garfield
that.
was, right? Like so cuz Andrew Garfield by the time of the second film, the thing he got down was the wisecracking, like
For
jokes, and
sure.
he was like he nailed that pretty well. I
Absolutely.
think Tom Holland was a little more tame about it. Like he was still a teenager, so he wasn't as mature as the other Spider-Man, I guess. But
Yeah, because it's like
yeah,
it's I think when he comes in Civil War, he's like 15.
yeah,
He's meant to be.
hmm,
So it's like he's definitely on the younger side of like whereas I think TASM he's meant to be a little bit older than that.
yeah,
So just I think you're right. I think it's Tom toned it down a little bit, but he had that like sense of a child to it,
yes,
I think.
totally, yeah. All throughout his entire tenure in the MCU, like he's the kid. Now let's talk about the supervillains. Do you have a favorite villain?
My usual answer is Green Goblin, but I
Mm-hmm.
would say I jump around a little bit. So Green Goblin is like my default answer, but I have a deep love for like Venom and Doctor Octopus also.
Because like I think the Green Goblin is kind of like the Joker's Batman. Like
Yeah,
they're like pretty much the same arch nemesis. Like I think they're both
yeah.
freaks. They're both costumed freaks that create havoc wherever they go, and
Hmm.
whoever's around them dies usually. And as far as Venom goes, like I think Venom is a good example of hate and jealousy, and we've all felt that. We've all been. I think we've all envied somebody in our lives, and
Hmm.
having that symbiote, I think the symbiote is a symbol of that. It can be a symbol of like a blurry face. It could be Nico, it could be Nicholas
Yeah,
Morbaki, so to say. It's your blurry face taking over you. You know, would you say like is it's kind of like the symbiote acts as like an amplifier of your emotions,
yeah,
which
for sure.
not just
Of like
yeah,
of your aggressive emotions, I would say.
right, minus the cool web and like the ability to climb and like
Yeah.
stuff like that. But yeah, those Venom movies though, Tom Hardy I think made a good Eddie Brock. Like, what did you think about the
He
Venom
won me
movies?
over.
Yeah.
It's I was iffy when his casting
Hmm.
was first announced, but I would say he definitely won me over
Hmm.
with the first movie.
Speaking on the terms of the Sinister Six, I guess that's to be. Would you? I guess we can use that as the appropriate term for the trolls that you get.
I will say it doesn't affect me anywhere near as much as it used to.
Hmm.
It's when I first started this account, I took a lot of those comments to heart, and now I'm kind of just at the point where it's like people on the internet are going to be people on the internet. You can't please everybody, and just you at some point have to accept that and just deal with it.
Hmm.
So I tend to just ignore a lot of that stuff now. It's as far as people questioning my gender, I don't really get offended by that just because I'm a woman who cosplays a male character. So like I can understand the confusion there and I don't get upset about comments like that generally.
Hmm.
Unless it's like obviously people are gonna go out of their way to like be assholes when they want to. But oh, sorry, can I swear on here?
Oh yeah, go ahead.
Okay. So yeah, just I like to ignore it sometimes. It depending on the comment, like I block people because I don't have time to deal with it. We're too old to have this back and forth in an Instagram comment section. Um,
Mhm.
Sometimes my favorite thing to do actually when I have somebody who's like consistently commenting is I'll it's not blocking them, it's like muting them basically.
Mhm.
I forgot what it's called. But it's so like nobody will see their comments except them and like me if I decide to go look for it, which I don't. So
Mm.
they're just screaming into the void and nobody's seeing it.
Oh, I didn't know you could do that on there. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, I
Um,
forgot what it's called. There's a
hmm,
name for it,
I think muting
but
would
it's like
be
it's not blocking people. It's like
mhm,
muting them or something.
or unsubscribing or I don't know.
Yeah, something like that.
You just kind of web them up. You just stick
Yeah.
them up against the was like in the game. Like you just
Yeah.
move
It's
on.
like you're going to have your
Mhm.
opinions. I don't need to hear them.
Exactly. I mean, I honestly we used to call it crossplay back in the day, where like
Yep.
gender bending cosplay. At
Mhm.
first that was weird for me at first as a kid, and then I was like, okay, this is a thing now. You just kind of get used to it. I guess just not everybody was exposed to it, or maybe it not being really much of a thing. That never mattered to me with you. It's just I notice you rock it the best. You don't see
Thank
a lot
you.
of no problem. There's not you don't see a lot of women cosplaying as Spider-Man. Mostly like Silk or Spider Woman.
I think it's not so much that people don't do it as a lot of female cosplayers don't go so far as to like specifically try to hide your body to do it, which I do.
Hmm.
Just it started more as like I was just more comfortable that way. I didn't really want to put my body out there on the internet like that. So like I wear a chest binder specifically to try to hide myself as much as possible and
Hmm.
like give myself a male body type as much as I can.
Hmm.
But I think a lot of like female cosplayers don't bother with that. They just if they want to put on a Spider-Man suit, they'll put on a Spider-Man suit and they don't intend to hide themselves and which I think is cool. I would like to get to a point in that eventually. But
Hmm.
yeah, I've definitely seen it more recently than like 5 years ago. I think it's a lot more common now than it was back then.
What kind of chest binder is that? Like, whoa, is that a real thing that women wear for like physical activity, or like what is that?
It's not
Hmm.
intended for cosplay. It's
Hmm.
mainly intended for like transgender women or transgender men who like want to bind their chest to try to just hide it as much as possible.
Hmm. Okay.
So it's not a lot of cosplayers use them because you're not supposed to wear them for long periods of time. So
Hmm.
like obviously if you're going to a con for 12 hours, it's not safe to wear it for that long.
Hmm.
So a lot of people won't risk it, but I typically don't wear one for that long anyway, so I don't mind throwing it on for a couple hours.
Gotcha.
Um, but yeah, it wasn't originally intended for cosplay, but cosplayers have kind of picked it up. So
Hmm.
yeah, but it's basically it's just like it's like wearing a half tank top basically, and it's just it's pinned really tight at like the side, so it just kind of like flattens my chest as much as possible. But I will say
Hmm.
I only wear it with when I'm actually cosplaying Spider-Man. Like
Hmm.
if I'm cosplaying a female character, I don't worry about it as much. So like my Spider Sona, I don't wear it there. I just wear it for
Hmm.
like actual Spider-Man cosplays.
Like, because you said before you don't want people to sexualize you, of course,
Yeah.
but at the
Which
same.
like I've
Mhm.
I've kind of gotten more comfortable with that now having had this account for a couple years now. It's I'm
Mhm.
more used to the idea of it, which is why like I didn't bother wearing it with my Spider Sona. I kind of just wanted to see how it would go if I didn't wear it.
Mhm.
And I didn't get a ton of gross comments, so like I've it's been okay so far.
That's good. It seems like you're developing more of a loyal fan base on here, a more
Yeah.
respectful fan base.
Oh, for sure. My followers are some of the coolest people in the world.
Mhm.
I just some of these people just absolutely make my day.
Are you trying to send out like a message of some sort at all with with cosplaying, gender bending cosplay at all?
It's yes and no. When I first started this account, I was at like the peak of my own depression.
Really?
And I really just needed an outlet and I needed somewhere to dump like the things that I was making because I couldn't just make them for me. I needed to put it somewhere.
Hmm.
So I ended up just kind of like I made this account as an outlet for myself of
Hmm.
just like this is where I come when I want to get away from all of the bad things that are happening in the world.
Yeah.
So I just kind of I that's why it's like I solely focus on cosplay. I'm not going to post anything outside of cosplay. If I want to
Hmm.
do that, I'll find another account to do that elsewhere. This is like this is for me, this is my escape, and that's what this was always meant to be. And now
Hmm.
it's like, I try to put that out there for other people, I guess, of like, even when you get mean comments, still like, regardless, this is your account, do what you want with it. Don't do
Yeah.
what you think other people want to see.
Hmm.
Which I think is something I learned over the years because there was a time once I hit like I want to say like 10,000 followers, that was like I never expected to get that big. Like I said, this was just a random place for me to put my pictures.
Hmm.
So hitting that level was like it went to my head a little bit, I think. And I started
Really.
to really come at it from a content creator point of view, where I'm like, okay, what can I do that's going to get me the most views?
Hmm.
And after about a month of that, I realized I wasn't having fun anymore. It
Really.
became incredibly stressful to post and like to try to schedule these things out and get things done in time. And I wasn't having fun. And I kind of got over it. And I was like, I need to step back and really reevaluate why I'm doing this. And I decided I didn't want to do this for other people. This from the beginning was meant to be for me. So I needed to kind of shift and get back into that. And I did. And that's why my posts were slow for like the past like month or two, and I just didn't really care because I was finally working on what I wanted to work on again. So I got over that.
No, I could totally relate to what you're saying too, but like you said, it started to sound like it was becoming a job, like it was becoming a
Yeah,
chore, and that's not what your intention was with this. You just wanted to share your passion for Spider-Man and your
exactly.
costumes. You didn't think you were going to get thousands of followers,
Yeah.
and I can kind of relate to that in a way with my channel here. Like, I didn't think I would ever get like even 100 followers. Didn't think I would ever
Hmm.
hit affiliate even, but it became overwhelming, and like you kind of felt like you needed to engage more. You needed to put a lot more effort into it to deliver because there's a lot of people coming
Because it's
in.
like I
Yeah.
think once you hit that point, you feel like you owe it to the people that are following you to
Yes.
give them something.
Mhm.
But at the end of the day, like if you're not enjoying what you're doing, what's the point?
Right. And like you said, your depression played a role, which I can
Hmm.
totally relate to. Like, I tried to make this channel like a safe space, but it turned it into a job at one point. And, trying to schedule special streams, which should be fun to do, but it wasn't because it was stressful to
Yeah.
get it together. And kind of like with your costumes, yet, so that's good that you're doing it at your own pace.
Hmm.
You're doing what you love, you're doing what you want to do. So it seems like Spider-Man, I think we all kind of have that feel good serotonin thing, whatever it is. For some people, it's wrestling. Some people, it's video games. And for you,
Hmm.
it is this character right here, which we all know and love. And so, are you saying like whenever you're in costume or whenever you're wearing like, I don't know, a Spider-Man sweater like that, anything Spider-Man, are you at peace with yourself? Does it help you mentally?
There's a comfort in it, I
Comfort.
think.
Yeah,
Like
that's the
this
word.
has always been, like I said, like the first Raimi movie has always been my comfort movie. This
Mm-hmm.
Spider-Man in general has just been a comfort character for me. So I
Mm-hmm.
think just having somewhere to channel the creativity and being able to put it into a character that I care so much for has been helpful.
Mm-hmm. Gotcha. Yeah, the comfort. That's the word. Comfort movie. Just put it on, you'll feel fine.
Yeah.
Have you ever actually worn the costume like under real clothes and gone out in public just knowing you have this costume under you? And
No.
you never done
No,
that?
I've never done that. Well, like it's technically not with that intention.
Ah, okay.
It's sometimes you're going somewhere for a shoot or something, it's really cold out, I'll throw a hoodie and sweatpants over the suit just to keep myself warm until we get there.
Hmm.
But no, I've never put it on just like to go out with the intention of having it on. There was one shoot that we did, it was like late November, early December, I think. So pretty
Hmm.
cold on the East Coast. And it was a rainy night and it was super foggy out. And
Hmm.
my partner, who's also my photographer, was like, it would be really cool to shoot in this. And it was like
Hmm.
I work night shift, so I had just gotten out at midnight. It was super dark and like foggy, and it looked really, really cool. And I was like, okay, we're gonna go home. I'm gonna put on a suit and we're gonna go shoot. And now typically when we shoot, it's anywhere from like a half hour to an hour, typically. And that night, I think we shot for about 2.5 hours. So
Wow.
it was a long night.
Out in the
It was a
cold.
really long and cold night,
See, that's the
and nothing
real.
but spandex.
Oh man. See, I again, like, how does Peter Parker do it? Like, does he
Yeah,
wear like
literally,
underoos
it's
under?
thermals, man.
He's wearing like wearing like some, probably wearing a onesie under there. He's got a Spider-Man onesie over his costume.
Yeah, you gotta have something.
So here, in this, put some dirt in your eye, black suit pattern by Ken. Is this like another commissioned outfit? The black costume was commissioned, or?
No, that was actually I had wanted to do a Raimi suit for a while
Mm-hmm.
and like a black Raimi suit and Print Costume, which is the website where I get all my suits at the time, they were doing a buy one get one free for suits for like the
Oh,
holiday season.
oh,
So I bought this one actually, and as my free suit, I got the black Raimi suit, and that was just a free pattern I had stumbled across.
oh, wow! Buy one get one free on any costume is really good.
Yeah,
So
it was like you still had
yeah,
to pay for like the add-ons and stuff, but
yeah.
it was still a great deal for what you were getting.
This was probably one of my favorite cosplays of yours because I just love the black suit.
I had gotten requests to do a black suit for a while, and I had this one sitting in my closet, and I finally just gave in and was like, you know what, screw it, I'm gonna paint it.
So that's the puff, you applying it on the webs.
hmm
How long does that take you normally?
It varies, as you can see, it's an incredibly slow and tedious process.
Mm-hmm.
So it really depends on what you're doing. I would say web lines on a Raimi suit can take anywhere from like 10 to 15 hours
Wow.
typically. Sometimes quicker, sometimes longer. The spectacular suit probably only took like 8 to 10 because there's so
Mm-hmm.
few web lines on it. Probably not even that long, honestly. But like the TASM suit with full textures that took me like over 130 hours or something like that. I
Wow.
think it was. So like it varies from suit to suit. It depends on how intricate the pattern is.
Gotcha. Imagine, having to meet a deadline, or like you said before, like you felt like you had to pressure yourself. So I could see
hmm
how, I mean, guys, if you could see how long it takes to do this, I
Yeah.
mean, there's no seamstresses here. It's just Ash,
Yeah.
doing her thing. I mean, when he does it in the movie, pretty sure he's taking his time when he's actually
Yeah.
crafting the suit. But yeah, that is so awesome, just seeing actually you do the process, working on each one. I have a huge fascination. I'm not a cosplayer, but I've always been fascinated with the world of cosplay and the detail and the love that is given on these costumes. And it's just I love crafty stuff. So it's like just seeing this is like puts me in a good mood, and seeing just the love you have for this character, and really pushing through the boundaries, personally. And I'm all for that. So keep going, keep doing what you're doing. Um, Now, I wanted to ask about the mask. Now, so here you can tell that's not just like a regular cowl that he would wear. Do you put on? Is there like a mask, like a plastic covering under there that shapes the face?
Yeah,
Or
so
Mhm.
that's called a facial. And what it is you can there's different types you could get. This one that I have here is 3D printed.
Oh,
So it's yeah, so it's just like the shape of his head and you wear that and then you put the mask over it and the lenses are actually magnetic. So they just pop right on over the mask.
is the mask like pattern like glued or like sewn into the faceplate or?
I don't glue mine in. It's
Mm-hmm.
some people do, some people don't. It's pretty much up to preference. I
Mm-hmm.
like being able to like use my shells with different suits,
Mm-hmm.
so I don't glue anything in.
Mm-hmm.
But it's definitely something I've seen people do, yeah.
Gotcha. Okay. So I can imagine it helps you breathe in them, right? Like, or are you getting
Mhm.
fogged up, or like so?
Yeah,
What?
it's
Mhm.
lenses definitely fog up. The only downside to a face shell is that like the heat in there, like the condensation builds up.
Yeah.
So it's just like your face is all wet if when you take it off after having worn it for a long time, which is not a comfortable feeling.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So, like, have you ever like worn a mask without a shell, like just straight up, just cover face covering?
I did that with my homemade suit.
Hmm.
There's no mask with that. I just glued the lenses right to the mask.
This one?
Um, no,
Oh,
well, yeah, that one too. That doesn't have a shell. But
okay.
my actual like the
Hmm.
homemade suit that I made. Well, I guess I made that one too. But
Okay,
uh,
not like in the movie, like homemade, like
yeah,
well, they're all
yeah, like
homemade.
my
But
actual like sweater
mhm.
suit.
See, I love how
Yeah,
you did the decathlon jacket there.
yeah, yeah. That was a lot of fun.
So were you? I was gonna ask you, like, are you like into science?
Not at all.
No,
No,
like physics and stuff. Like you're not. You won't. We won't catch you in a decathlon back in the day, or
absolutely not.
like.
I'm not even close to intelligent enough for that.
Gotcha. Yeah, getting into those things, you got to be like a straight A student. Like, I mean, that's how. He was a smart kid, but.
Yeah.
So all this the web fluid formula, you did you write that from scratch or did you like
There
that
was like a
or
there was a picture floating around on
ah
Google that I kind of just copied myself.
gotcha. There you go.
Yeah.
That works too. So you going to cons, like going back to your con life. Like has everyone been like really like supportive of your costume? As no one's given you like any
Oh,
crap there or?
no, not at
Mhm,
all. It's everybody I've met has been incredibly supportive and kind and
mhm.
just I've actually had a couple crazy experiences where like people just recognize me,
Oh,
like just which is crazy.
so you
Like
are
actually
recognized. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, the con where I went to meet Andrew, I was just like standing there looking at the photo op board and some guy just like came up to me and he was like, "Are you Ash?" And
Hmm.
I was like, "Yeah." And he's like, "Oh, I follow you." And I was like, "That's awesome. Thank you." Like that's crazy.
So you're a celebrity and on your own then. Like look at you. You're bonding with the kids, you know, you got other cosplayers like that is so cool that you have your own following as well. This is one of my favorite pictures by the way.
Oh,
Right
yeah,
here.
it was awesome. That was just like they had a huge group and anytime a Spider-Man just walked up, the group would just get bigger. It was really, really cool.
Oh, that is awesome. Wow. That's really cool like that.
Yeah,
So
that
we
was a
got
ton of fun.
I can identify most of them. Yeah, there's Miles, there's you, there's the guy next to you is Power Suit. No, isn't Far From Home Spidey. And then
Hmm.
there's Spider Punk. Is that Spider Punk?
Somewhere probably, yeah.
Next to Gwen, and then there's Silk, and then there's another classic Miles. Okay, so nice. Yeah, that's awesome. And who would ever think that picture was gonna be like huge? That little in
Yeah.
universe scuffle there. But yeah. But anyway, but yeah, you definitely have some really good content on here, and I really hope I really look forward to seeing more of it. Just keep it coming, please. um,
Will do.
yeah.
Oh, there's the sweater suit. We just scrolled past it.
Oh, this one. This
Yep.
one. Gotcha.
Yeah,
Okay.
so there's yeah,
Mhm.
there's no face shell with that one. It's just the mask.
Gotcha. That's not the mask. This is the pillow, right? Oh, okay. Is there one of you wearing the mask? Oh, this one. Yeah. Okay.
Mhm.
Was this from the game, the Insomniac game?
No, this was actually just my custom sweater suit. It's
Hmm.
sweater suits were big at the time that I made it. A lot of people were doing them and I just wanted to
Hmm.
try my own take on it. So
Yeah.
it was kind of just like go to Walmart and buy what you can there and try to make a suit out of it.
Oh,
So
okay.
that's this is pretty much the result of that.
Wow. And it definitely looks warmer in the winter, as you can see.
For sure.
Yeah.
Definitely the warmest suit to wear.
I wanted to ask about this photo. Now, this is the infamous kiss scene.
Mhm.
Were you hurting after this?
It
Physically?
actually it wasn't as bad as you'd expect because actually in this I have a harness on that we photoshopped out.
Oh, really? Okay.
So yeah, because my dad is he's a firefighter.
Oh.
So we shot this at my parents' house originally, and I went over there and I was like, okay, I'm gonna hang upside down from your tree so we can
Hmm.
recreate the kiss photo.
Hmm.
And he looked at me and he was like, "There's no way in hell you're doing that." And I was like, "Yeah, it'll be fine." And he's like, "How are you planning to hold yourself up?" And I was like, "I'm just gonna hold on to the rope. It'll be fine." And he's like, "Okay, come here. I'm gonna put you in a harness." So he like
Hmm.
strapped me into the harness and we went outside and tested it a few times and I like could barely hold on to the rope at all.
Oh
I was like,
no.
I have zero upper body strength. This was not happening without a harness on. I really overestimated myself on that one.
Oh no.
But yeah, so
Hmm.
it actually didn't hurt that much at all and I wasn't upside down for a crazy amount of time because basically what it would be is I would get up and like stand on a stool
Hmm.
and then I would flip upside down and they would pull the stool out and then
Hmm.
we'd kind of like set the camera up and make sure that we were in frame and everything.
Hmm.
So we tested it. I went upside down like 3 or 4 times. But like by the end, the blood starts rushing for your to your head a little bit.
Yeah, you
So I
just.
was like, all right, we can get one more. We can shoot one more time before I'm done with this.
Oh man, yeah, that's not blushing. That's blood rushing to
Oh
your
no,
head.
that's the blood is all in my head. Yeah,
Wow.
it was fun though. It was a lot of fun, and
Hmm.
that's a photo I had always wanted to do. So, and as soon as I told
Yeah.
my boyfriend, I was like, I want to do this, and he's like, all right, let's figure out how to do it. Like, let's do it. So I was really glad that he was super supportive of it and everything.
Hmm. Yeah, that's awesome. You were able to pull it off. Like I thought, like you actually like swung down from the tree and like was holding on to a for dear life on that. But yeah, that's awesome. So do you want to be a firefighter like your dad and like fight fires like with the harness hanging upside down like Spider-Man and just spraying buildings, rescuing people out of windows?
That's not really my forte, I would
Ah.
say. I think that's a little too physically demanding for me
Mhm.
personally, but there are a lot of firefighters in my family who I admire greatly for what they go out and do every day. It's
Mhm.
I think public service workers like that do such an incredible job.
Yes, they are the first responders are definitely the real heroes. Cops,
Mhm.
police. I mean, everyone's got different opinions on them, and but you just got to appreciate what they do. They're putting their lives on the line
100%.
every day. So as far as you like actually putting on the costume and kind of going back to that, I noticed you posted a video of yourself. Right? Is it this one? Yeah, your spectacular suit. So is this kind of like the standard method you have for putting on a costume? Like you have zippers everywhere. You just kind of put on like a DVD. Is that what you do?
Times. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
this is pretty much the gist of putting a suit on, although this
Mm-hmm.
is, I will say, much quicker.
Right.
It takes a lot longer than that to get everything situated, but
Mm.
I can usually do it on my own. Sometimes zippers get stuck, like actually on this suit, the zippers for some reason really just like to stick. So I have a really difficult time doing it myself, so I usually have somebody like help me.
Mm. They're kind of
But
like the little costume zippers that get caught
yeah.
easily. Like
Yeah.
they ever get caught like on the threads? Like, yeah, that's
Oh my God, the worst.
there we
So
go.
the zipper
Yeah.
runs all the way up through
Mm-hmm.
my armpit.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like it's a onesie, so I pull it over and I actually put my neck into the suit first, and then I'm able to kind of like slip my arms in,
Mm-hmm.
which I usually cut that out because it doesn't make good content, but
Mm-hmm.
you can kind of like snake your arms in there and eventually pull it. And then once you pull the back part down, you should be able to zip it, usually yourself,
Mm.
but sometimes you need help. And then I get wrist zippers in almost all of my costumes. These are
Mm-hmm.
harder to zip on my own. I usually have help here.
Oh, okay.
But we'll try it. Yeah, I don't think we're
Mm-hmm.
zipping that, but it's you get the gist. It's here. I'll just hold it closed. Yeah, so this one, as I said, is completely painted.
Mm-hmm.
So it's very it's kind of stiff in comparison to
Mm-hmm.
like just a normal spandex suit.
Yeah.
But there's like I don't know what my hair is covering,
Mm-hmm.
but yeah. So the U zipper runs here. And then I don't currently have the soles on, but
Mm-hmm.
I have kung fu shoes that are installed in the suit, and then I also have an ankle zipper so I can
Mm-hmm.
get the shoes on a little bit easier. The Amazing Spider-Man one suit, he uses A6 soles.
Hmm.
They're the ones in the movie are I think Dirt Dog 3s. These are Dirt Dog 2s because I couldn't find any.
Hmm.
At least not in my size. They're really hard to find nowadays. But I when I first bought this suit, I wasn't going for like super accuracy.
Mm-hmm.
So I bought it with kung fu shoes in it.
Hmm.
So I needed to find a way to get them off without damaging the suit, and I didn't trust myself to do that. So what I ended up doing instead was I found these, and they were a couple sizes bigger. So I'm actually able to just slip it over the kung fu shoe that's already in the suit,
Hmm.
and it's a friction fit. It actually fits perfectly, so I can just walk around and have the actual accurate soles
Oh,
when
okay.
I want to go out and like shoot and stuff.
That's awesome. It's like normally you'd see people just wearing sneakers under like as the shoes.
Yeah,
You don't really see a lot of people like be able to. I think the footwear is like one of the most challenging parts of a costume. Would you say?
for
Like,
sure.
yeah.
Yeah, it's like
Mm-hmm.
and honestly, like kung fu shoes aren't the most comfortable to
Mm.
wear. So
No.
like I respect people that just put on sneakers and go with it. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, you got the right idea. Be comfy.
Get some red Nikes. You'll be fine. But
Yeah,
at the
it's
same
fine.
time, so I want to ask you about other Marvel properties. Are there any like other heroes or franchises that you're just really into?
I used to be pretty into Iron Man, but I kind of fell out of that one pretty quickly.
Hmm.
As far as Marvel goes, there's not a whole lot. It's I was getting into like Black Panther and stuff after his first movie, but just I ended up never even seeing the second one because I was kind of just too heartbroken to do it. But
Yeah.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
Marvel not a whole lot. I'm into a lot of stuff outside of Marvel, but as far as like superheroes go, Spider-Man's pretty much it, I would say.
Mm-hmm. Oh, okay, so no one else on the periodic table here. Uh, like you never got into like Captain America or the X-Men even, which I think is
Not really. No, I
no.
actually haven't seen the X-Men movies, which a lot of people freak
Really?
out about when I tell them that.
Mm. Well, I'm not freaking. I'm
Yeah, I
freaking out
know.
inside, but
I'll watch them at some point. It's just I haven't been into Marvel stuff lately outside of Spidey.
I see. Oh, there's a lot of crossover between the two. So like there's that
Yeah.
episode of the show, the Spider-Man show, where the X-Men were there, and there's some crossover there. Same universe, you know. It really touches base on discrimination. I think that's probably why it's so big, is because it's a big problem in this world. So what other cooler way to do it with mutant powers? And you know, let's get to the 21 Pilots talk here.
All right,
Now,
let's go.
we'll try not to spend a whole hour talking about this, but
We'll see.
right. How and when did you get into our boys?
The How is a really embarrassing story. It was end of 2015, so like immediately post Blurry Face coming out.
Mhm.
Right when they were starting to get really big. I mentioned I was a huge Walking Dead fan back then,
Mhm.
and I was in love with Chandler Riggs. Just Carl was my everything at the time. I was in love with that man. I was convinced, like 14-year-old me was convinced I was gonna marry him. So like I was really into him and he had posted a couple times about 21 Pilots like being his favorite band.
Mhm.
So naturally, the fangirl that I was, I went and listened to all of their stuff so that I could like his favorite band and he would fall in love with
Oh.
me because of that. Which spoiler alert did not happen. But I listened to a little bit of their stuff. I wasn't super into it at first until I really sat down and listened to it. Like I think everybody goes through that. Like you hear a song on the radio and you're like, it's fine, and then you sit down and listen to it again and you're like, oh, that's a good song. And I ended up getting super hooked on Vessel. Just overall as an album. I got absolutely hooked. And then I ended up just falling in love with the band in general. I loved the music, I loved the boys. I ended up just getting hooked on them and I didn't really care about Chandler anymore.
Oh, you ditched the boys for
Well, no,
Chandler.
I'm
Uh,
still a big fan of Chandler. Just
uh,
I'm not as obsessed with him as I was at one time.
gotcha.
So I would
Th-
say I'm more into 21 Pilots than I am him now.
gotcha. So thanks to Chandler, you brought you over to the dark side, or he
Yeah.
brought you into Trench, or not Trench, Dima. He brought you over into Dima because you got in during the Blurry Face era. Okay,
Yeah, pretty much, yeah.
gotcha. Oh, okay. What was the first song you heard by them?
I think the first song I heard was like car radio in passing.
Oh.
Like it just I had heard it somewhere, but I didn't like register that it was 21 Pilots
Mhm.
until later on once like Stressed Out and Ride started getting popular. And then once I listened to Vessel and I heard it for the first time in full, I was like, oh, I know this song. I've heard this before.
Mhm.
So I'm pretty sure it was car radio, but like in passing.
Gotcha. That's. I remember it did get some airplay, like when Vessel was getting big between that period of when they were just blowing up from Vessel into Blurry Face, Car
Mhm.
Radio, and like that was like the only Vessel song that really got the most airplay. But
Yeah,
that's a really good intro because
it is for sure.
mine was Guns for Hands. Like I looked them up. Like my friend told me about them and said, check these people out. They're on the same label as Paramore, and like we're big Paramore fans. Fueled by Ramen Records, and so I checked them out and I was like, okay, this sounds pretty cool. It's like I like the upbeat electronic sound, and I for some reason I like the ski mask thing. Like,
I love the ski masks.
yeah, like you know like Tyler's explanation behind that, right?
Hmm. Yeah.
Like the whole faceless like music. Like he
Hmm.
doesn't want to put a face to the music, right? The fact that they're still kind of doing it up until the Clancy era, like with Clancy's mask, you know, I think it's kind of like an evolution of that. We got Clancy here, our hero, Clancy, who is Tyler, and us during the Blurry Face era. That was the beginning of the saga, the Clancy saga, so to say. Did you have a song off of Blurry Face that you resonated with the most?
I got really hooked on the emotion in Goner at the
Yes.
time. Because that was like I think I was like a freshman or sophomore in high school when
Mm.
I heard it for the first time. So like naturally as a child you think the entire world is crumbling down around you. So I think just hearing the emotion in that song really like stuck with me. That was my favorite off Blurry Face for a really long time.
Yeah, Goner is definitely a heavy song. It's like you're thinking you're gonna succumb to your dark side, and you know, though I'm weak and beaten down,
Hmm.
slip away into the sound. Like it's just such a deep song. It's like I
That's
can,
it's
yeah,
one thing about 21 Pilots is they do not play when it comes to album closers.
right.
They know how to do a finale song.
Okay, nothing beats a 21 Pilots show.
I want to say I've been to a total of like 9 or 10 shows.
Really, same. High five.
Yeah.
Was the first era you've seen was the Blurry Face
The first
or
leg of the Emotional Roadshow was my first show.
Emotional Roadshow?
Yeah.
That was a great one because they actually
That was a
played.
great show.
Did your show have like the stage in the middle of the audience where they
Mhm.
played the old songs?
Yep.
Oh my god, I went crazy when they played like, Johnny Boy and all the other really old
Oh my God,
songs.
Kitchen Sink, I think I cried for.
Yes, Kitchen Sink. First time I saw them was 2014. It was like Middle Vessel, right before they blew up. This is when they were still playing a small venue. Tickets were $20. We just walked right up to the barricade, and I had no idea who they were yet. Really, I only watched the Guns for Hands video, and actually going back to that, Guns for Hands, and then Car Radio. Fell in love with them. You know, like you said about the Spider-Man 2 film, you kind of just have to watch it again later on to give it another
Yeah.
chance, right? So that's what I did, and I'm so glad I did. And then well, it's like going into that show, I liked Screen. I think Screen is one of my favorite songs off of Vessel. So
Great song.
yeah, that they played pretty much that whole album with a couple of the oldies.
Yeah, that's really
Yeah.
cool. I think the second leg of the Emotional Roadshow, I got to hold up Josh, and then
Oh,
my first show of the Takeover tour, I got to hold up Tyler. So,
during Holding On to You, like when he goes up to the
oh
crowd,
no, 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 during
or
Trees, it was the Trees platform.
Trees. Oh God, that's such a great ending. It's crazy to this day. Like they did it back then. Like that was the
Hmm.
last song, and then all the way through the Blurry Face era, the Trench, Scaled and Icy, all the way
Yeah, that's
even.
one thing that I'm really grateful that they kept throughout the years
Mhm.
because that it's just such an iconic ending to a show. How do
Yeah,
you beat that?
exactly. Now the sad part of that was later on. This is going up to the Scale and Icy era when concerts started coming back. I saw
Mhm.
them in LA, and like at that point, like this kind of started during the Trench era, where like less and less people knew the lyrics to Trees. So
Oh,
Tyler was already saying the old school fans got to show how the new school is done, And whenever like he played a lot of old deep cuts in that show, and just not a lot of people knew the lyrics. But like,
no,
yeah, it's like us old schoolers, us OGs, had to really keep the energy alive at that point because it was kind of like, oh, these kids are just here because of like Blurry Face
yeah.
probably. But did you ever get that feeling when you went to a show? Like, did you notice like less people knew the older songs, and did it ever
Um,
affect you and all?
N- Honestly, I don't think I ever really noticed if it had,
Hmm.
just because when I go to a show, I'm really focused on the show.
Yeah.
So I'm not really thinking about anybody around me. But no, for the most part, I feel like the shows that I've been to, the crowd really has brought it.
Yeah.
And like really been there and known what they were here for.
Okay. Say you're from the East Coast, which is where they're from. So I would think like maybe
Yeah.
their fan base is a little more hardcore out there. Like
Yeah.
I can.
It maybe.
Hmm. I can't imagine going to a hometown show in Ohio. Like that would be
Oh
super
my
cool to
God, I
do
can't
one day.
imagine. That'd be super cool.
That would be like I always wanted to go to the toy store in the Choker video. We
Oh yeah, that'd be cool too.
go on like an adventure, like what is that? Like a crusade, I guess.
Yeah.
I did that with Blink 182. Like I'm a huge Blink fan, and I went to San Diego and went to like their high schools and the sombreros they ate at, like even the venues they played at early on. Have you ever like followed a band like that?
No, I don't think so. At
Okay.
least not with a band, because
Hmm.
I've done like those it's not like a studio tour, but something like that for
Hmm.
like I did it for The Walking Dead
Oh, okay.
and
Hmm.
I think that's it, yeah. But not with a band, no. I think it'd be really fun though. Like I know
Hmm.
it was going around a while back because I think they shot some of the Dima stuff for the Nico and the Niners video in the Ukraine, and a whole bunch of the Ukraine fans got together and did a photo shoot there, and it was super cool. And I was
Yeah.
like, that would be incredible.
Were you able to follow the lore?
To a degree. I
Hmm.
follow the lore, but I'm not like a hardcore like theorist or anything.
Okay.
It's kind of I know the gist of the story and like I follow it, but I'm not like I'm not
Hmm.
searching every single photo that they post for codes.
Right. Yeah, the code that he has, like I actually from from the listening party, I got the red wristband. Do you have this too?
Oh, nice. Yeah, I have one somewhere. I
Oh,
forgot where I put it, but I
okay.
have one.
For those of you watching, like basically, Clancy here is our hero. It's Tyler. It's Tyler. He's us. And he's going on an emotional journey. And Blurry Face, him and the Niners, Nico and the Niners, being the nine bishops, being the representation of the nine songs in Blurry Face. And Trench, just kind of like the nice place. The banditos are there. They're your friends. And Josh is the torchbearer. And he's a symbol of friendship and hope. And if we fast forward to the end of Paladin Strait, spoiler alert, when Nico came out and grabbed Tyler by the neck. After he destroyed the nine bishops, he made it through Dima again. When he grabbed that neck, I got Thanos vibes because he is inevitable. Would you agree that your Blurry Face is inevitable? Like it's no matter what you do, it'll always be there.
Yeah,
To a
it's
degree.
I think everybody feels that way at least at one point or another. It's like no matter how much you overcome something, it's not something you're ever going to forget. It's always going to be there in the back of your head.
Yeah.
And like it's I feel the exact same way of like I always have the insecurities in the back of my head and like those thoughts and the things I don't want to think about. They're always there even if I don't want them to be, or like I try to pretend that they're not.
Would you say your Spider-Man costumes are like your jumpsuit, and they help you enter different realms and help you feel protected, but also feel good about yourself and create and I guess Ned is a sign of creativity, the little demon guy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I would say so because there's a confidence that I think I get from like suiting up and
Yeah.
going out and taking photos.
Mhm.
And like there's something about just like you see a kid walk by and his face lights up when he sees you and he runs over and hugs you and wants to take a photo.
Yeah.
And it's like there's something about it that just gives you that feeling of like being a hero and like it helps you. It helps you feel comfortable because as an incredibly awkward person, it's
Mhm.
I don't like interacting with other people. I'm incredibly uncomfortable with it, but as soon as I have a suit on, I'm fine. Like I can do
Really?
it. I feel okay. So it's like because you have a mask to hide behind. So it's
Mhm.
like you don't have to worry what other people think because they can't see me.
Gotcha.
So it's I definitely think it is. It's my jumpsuit in a way. Yeah.
That's awesome. That's an awesome way to put it. Like, you know, you're bringing joy to others. I think that's like probably the best thing you get about that, right? And
A
um,
100%. Yeah.
like when you went to the movie theater here to watch Spider Mondays, which I missed completely. So when you went to the theater like this, like what was going through your mind? Did you feel like that costume was a jumpsuit? Did you feel awkward at all going in there dressed
um,
as Spidey?
it's definitely a little
Mhm.
awkward when
Mhm.
like you're just going to the movies in a costume. It's not like a convention. It's not
Mhm.
like an event. It's you're just going to a movie. So it is there's that awkwardness in the back of your head.
Mhm.
But there's also like that giddy like kid on Christmas joy that you get from it at the same time. So I'd say it's mixed feelings for sure.
Mhm.
I think once I'm in a suit, I'm more confident when I have the mask on. But
Mhm.
obviously when you go to like a movie theater and stuff, you can't. So there's
Yeah.
definitely a little bit of I guess embarrassment to it for lack of a better term.
Mm.
Yeah, you just can't help that sometimes.
So would you feel more? Well, you could probably wear like a face mask, like a Spider-Man face mask, but
Yeah,
it wouldn't look right. There's
no,
no
it wouldn't feel right.
there's no iteration of Spider-Man that wears that, so it's like it wouldn't make except Silk. You get away with it.
Yeah, you could
Yeah.
argue so. Yeah.
So I mean, honestly, when I see this as a fan, I just think it brings joy to me because it shows bravery. It shows that you are just going out and doing what you love, and I couldn't do this. Like I couldn't go dressed up. I have a late friend who used to dress up as Batman to all the Christopher Nolan films, and he didn't give a shit. He just went fully dressed up, talking like Christian Bale, and it's just and midnight showings, and just people were taking pictures with him and like telling him how awesome he was, even though he was like a small guy. Like he didn't care. He just went.
It also did help
Mhm.
that for this movie, I wasn't the only one dressed up.
Oh, really?
Actually, there was a group of guys that also had
Mm-hmm.
suits on. And I didn't want to post the picture that we took because I don't
Mm-hmm.
know any of them and I didn't have their permission. But
Mhm.
yeah, we all ended up taking a group photo after the movie was over, so that was pretty cool. There was a lot of mixed suits actually.
Mixed
It
suits.
was there was a ton of there was a couple Miles, there was a 2099, it
Oh.
was a good mix of people actually.
Oh, okay. So the Spider Verse, so 2099, he was like kind of looking for you, like making sure you're not going to mess with the continuation. The what's that word? The space time continuum of the Spider
Yeah.
Mans. But kind of going back to 21 Pilots, the Clancy costume. Did you make this or
Mhm.
you
Yep.
made this? Okay. So how did you make the mask? Because I really want to make one.
The mask at the time, because I made this back when Overcompensate had just come out.
Mm-hmm.
Like it had been out for like I not even 2 weeks. Like
Mm.
it was really, really early on that I started making this.
Yeah.
Because I knew as soon as I saw Overcompensate that I was going to do this costume. Like
Mm.
I knew it wasn't gonna do well. I knew my followers were not gonna get super into it, and I didn't care. I was like,
Oh.
I'm doing this costume no matter what. Um, so the mask I struggled with for a really long time. It was a lot of trial and error. I think I sat at my desk for like 4 hours one night and ended up with nothing. And
Really?
I was just like, I can't figure it out because it's more intricate than you'd expect it to be. Because
Hmm.
there's actually like the bottom half is actually a different type of fabric, and then it's a whole thing. And getting those ears right was so tricky. I struggled with that for an extremely long time.
Hmm.
And eventually I kind of just threw something together that looked close enough, and I ended up just going with it. So it's like it's not the most accurate one out there, but at the time I
Hmm.
was really happy with it, and I'm still like I like it. I like how it came out.
That's awesome. That's crazy. It looks like a rather simple pattern, but really it doesn't seem like it
You
is.
think that until you
Yeah.
start doing it, and then you're like, oh, that's
Hmm.
not how that goes.
And the ears, you don't really notice the ears at first. It turned out great, by the way.
Thank you.
As a fellow fan, that just made my heart so happy to see that when I woke up that day. I was like, Ash, she's. I forgot. I remembered you. One of the first times I messaged you, you had, I think you have. Don't you have like the trench posters in one of your rooms, like the.
Yeah, yeah, I have a ton of 21 Pilots stuff all around my house.
Yeah, and you have the blurry face flags, right? Or
Yep.
yeah, those. I really wanted those when those came out, and I was like, oh my god, she likes 21 Pilots. Okay, I am forever following you. This is it. This
Thank
is the
you.
seal on the deal. Oh my god,
Yeah,
like
it's always
yeah.
fun to find
Hmm.
like sometimes I'll post a random picture and not even realize the stuff that's in the background and
Yeah.
people will comment like the logo. And I'll be like, "Oh, somebody saw it. Like that's cool."
Oh
I,
yeah.
I like when like members of the clique find me.
Yes. The click. We are forever the few, the proud, and
The emotional.
emotional.
Yeah,
Yes.
I have it
Oh,
tattooed. I
that's
don't know what
actually
my camera.
tattooed on you.
Yeah.
Oh, I need
Yeah,
that.
I think you see it in one of these photos somewhere. I have my hand up, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought that you just drew that on. No, that is
No, no.
okay.
Yeah, I have a few 21 Pilots tattoos actually. Well, they're all covered right now,
Oh,
but
okay.
I have a goner bird like right here on my arm.
Oh.
And
Oh
then
yeah.
on the back of
Hmm.
both of my arms, I have peace will win and fear will lose. So,
That is
mhm.
awesome.
Yeah,
That's
I have Ned. I have Ned tattooed over my knee.
oh really? Oh,
Yeah.
dang, you have all these. You're a bigger fan than I am. Then, oh my god. Yeah. Oh my god. Going back to their music real quick, I've always wanted to ask other fans this: is that the journey that Tyler goes through with his music, whether it's from Vessel and whatnot, like it's just you feel like you're going through it when you're listening to the songs that you can relate to the most.
Mhm.
Do you feel like you're finding a channel to combat each emotion, each thing you're going through, like with stressed out, like, do you feel like this person gets it? Like,
Oh, for sure. It's
right.
that's actually
Hmm.
that's something that I think Tyler does really, really well with how he writes lyrics.
Hmm.
Is I think it's very easy to relate to him because he sings about such like basic problems that so many people go through and try to ignore.
Yes.
So it's like it's nice to have that like somebody else understands this, somebody else knows what I'm going through, and I'm not doing this alone. And I don't
Hmm.
have to do this alone. And that's something that they've always done really well from even from their first like self-titled album through Clancy. Like that message has always been there.
Yes, he's one of the greatest lyricists ever. I don't think he gets enough credit for that. Have you ever like envisioned your dark side or your Venom, I guess Spider-Man also has identity issues as well. Is that something you relate to as well? Did you ever have an identity crisis? Have you ever met your blurry face or like identified it, so to say?
Yes and no. I
Mm-hmm.
think mental health was something I struggled quite a bit with when I was younger.
Mm-hmm.
I would like to think that I've gotten better over the years, but like, who can really
Mm-hmm.
attest to that, I guess. Um, I think everybody has in some form or another, whether you put a face on it or not. I think everybody faces that battle at some point.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Unfortunately for most people, it does happen in your younger years and when you're like a teenager and you don't know how to deal with it or where to put these feelings.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think so.
And what better way to do it than wrapping up them in music, especially with their earlier stuff, like up until Vessel, or even like Scaled and Icy, where it's like it sounds happy and cute and cuddly, but it's actually
Mhm.
really dark.
Yeah.
That is something I wasn't a big fan of with the Blurry Face album, was because it was just so dark. But I think that's kind of what they wanted to do. They kind of wanted to show what Blurry Face was about, like, how it took over Tyler and just how it really took effect. Like
Mhm.
we went from this bright, happy-ish persona to this. And then Trench comes along and as a symbol of hope, the yellow, the Banditos. Um, which it took me like kind of a minute to figure out who they were. Like, did you know? What did you think? Like,
Oh,
so skip ahead to Trench. What did you think of Trench? Like,
well,
mhm,
when Trench first came out, I had no idea what was going on.
mhm,
It's because I was following everything. Like I followed the eye closing and everything. So like I was ready. I was super ready
yeah,
to like have new music. And then as soon as I watched Jumpsuit for the first time, I was like, I don't know what's going on, but we're going to war. Like it's because Jumpsuit is such like a hype up, like put on your war paint type of song.
yes,
So it's like you don't really know what's going on, but you know we're about to get into something.
hmm,
So it's like I didn't really understand that there was a whole story that was happening already
right,
that had already been happening for years and so many people just we didn't catch it for a
hmm,
while. And then once they finally started to like the Clancy letters dropped and like just we started to really get some story. It was like, oh, okay, we're doing this. Like,
yeah, totally. Yeah, blurry. Yeah, It's crazy because they have the ability to like make it so that way the hardcore fans can really know what's going on story wise,
mhm.
while the general public who don't follow the lore can still relate to the music. So
Yeah.
it touches on both sides. Then we go into Skilled and Icy, which at first I thought was like maybe the end of the Clancy saga. He's on TV. He's
Mhm.
seems happy. Is all bright and colorful, but it's actually being controlled by Nico and the Niners.
I think it was more just like this was how the bishops used them and
Yes.
like used them to bend them to their own purposes and try to
Mhm.
get people on their side instead and like just twisted the image of what the band was trying to say.
You've seen the
Mhm.
live stream, right?
Yeah,
Oh, that was a great show.
that was an awesome show.
Hmm, Especially since it was like near the tail end of COVID, we still couldn't go to concerts, and just
Mhm.
I took a break off of work to watch that, and just completely just jammed out
So
to
did
that.
I. Yeah.
You did too? Oh my
Yeah.
god. Okay, so Migraine is another favorite song of mine. So when he sang that during the mashup, I went nuts. I was
Oh my
like,
god, the mashups were incredible. Literally,
yeah.
Heathen's Trees, I cry every time I hear it. Like the mashups were great.
Oh man. Yes, same. Oh my god. So yeah, it was like the form of like a commercial or a TV show to make it look fun, but he's trying to lure you in. And
Mhm.
then I think the
Yeah, 'cause
last song, huh?
that was like the whole teaser before Scaled and Icy came out is like Psy's propaganda that was like hidden
Yeah.
in one of their photos. So that was like a whole thing of like don't trust it
Yeah.
because they kept saying like Clancy is dead. So like don't listen to him. He's gone. Scaled and
Mhm.
Icy is an anagram for Clancy is dead.
That whole era was interesting. It was a great album, Mulberry Street, Saturday, it had a lot of good songs. Did you have a favorite song on that one?
It's probably a tie between Mulberry Street and Redecorate, I think.
Redecorate's a good one.
Both two drastically different songs, but two very good songs.
Yeah, I remember he did like I don't know if he did this at your show. Did he do like the looper like at the piano like in the middle of the
Yeah,
the arena? Yeah, that was cool.
that was
Um
really cool. Yeah.
probably my favorite one is like Choker. I can totally relate to that song. I think we've kind of been there where You don't want to be a nuisance to someone. I guess we can end that section on Clancy. Here we are now, the end of the saga. Or supposedly, what did you think of the album?
Oh my god, I loved Clancy. I was it's I was afraid when Overcompensate came out because the first time I saw that video, I actually wasn't a huge fan of it. It
Same.
took listening to the song a couple of times to be like, okay, and kind of
Mm-hmm.
like ease myself into this era, and then now I love that song.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but like hearing, because I don't know if you went to one of the listening events before the
Mm-hmm.
album came out, that was the first time I heard it, like
Yeah.
in full.
Oh.
So just listening to it with so many other people, just the excitement in that room, it was just like, what a good album. And then just some of the themes that they touch on. This is such an emotional album. This is like it's hard to listen to when you sit down and you're just focusing on the music
Yeah.
because it's some of the things like the first song that comes to mind is always At the Risk of Feeling Dumb.
Mm-hmm.
That is such an important song, and like the message in that song is just so like I that needs to just be played absolutely everywhere. It's so I love I love this album deeply.
Oh gosh. I feel the same way about Routines in the Night. That's
That
another
too. Yeah.
banger. Like, I mean, aside from the lyrical content, it's just the sound is just like the instrumentals. You just kind of melt away, right? When you put it on, you just kind of
Mhm.
you get right in there. It's one of those albums. Trench didn't have that with me. Scaled and Icy didn't really have that with me, but this album kind of hit about the park, you know.
Mm.
But yeah, you're right. Because like honestly, for the longest time, like I was kind of against like the dark, like cryptic sound that Blurry Face and Trench had. Were you a fan of
I
that? Like,
I was into it at the time because I was an angsty teenager.
oh,
I
okay.
was I was in like my sophomore year of high school, so like that was around the
Mm.
time that people were like my age were into that stuff.
Oh,
So
okay.
like I was into it at the time. I understand why people would look back on it and be like, "Ooh, that's kind of cringy."
Mm-hmm.
But at the time I enjoyed it.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I will say I'm
Mhm.
probably going to have more 21 Pilots stuff in the future. This is not
Yes.
the last 21 Pilots post I will have. I promise you that.
Yes, please. If you do like a Blurry Face costume, I think that'd be cool.
Yeah, I've always
Yeah.
wanted to do like the emotional roadshow red suits.
Yes.
That was my favorite look of theirs. I still am in love with it to this day.
It looks kind of Spidey-ish. Red.
Yeah, it's in there.
So, what else are you into other than Marvel and 21 Pilots and The Walking Dead?
I go through phases of being into shows because when I get into something, I get really into it. So, like, for the past 5, 6 months, I've been really into Game of Thrones.
Mm.
So, like, I'm super into that right now, and like medieval stuff, I'm down for. I did a Renaissance fair this past weekend, actually,
Oh.
and it was like, this is gonna be my new thing for cons because it's so much
Hmm.
cheaper. So,
Oh,
like,
yeah.
I could just go do this for a day instead of going and spending a ton of money at a convention. I get into a bunch of shows. Peaky Blinders was one I was hooked on for a while. House of the
Hmm.
Dragon. Um,
Hmm.
a ton of other stuff I'm totally blanking on right now.
The Last of Us?
Yeah, I got really
That's.
into The Last of Us because I was one of
Mhm.
those Pedro Pascal girlies. So, The Mandalorian, also
Of
into
course.
that. I used to be more into Star Wars than I am now.
Oh.
The only thing I really still keep up with, I think, is The Mandalorian.
Hmm.
Um, but I used to be into Star Wars, like, overall in general.
Same. Until
Um,
Disney came and until they made the Abrams saga, the dumpster
yeah,
fire
we
of
don't
the
have
sequel.
those ones.
It had so much potential at the beginning.
It did. Well, because actually, I hadn't seen Star Wars until those movies.
Really?
I hadn't seen any Star Wars stuff. Yeah, it was just I just never got into it because nobody in my family was really into it.
Hmm.
So I kind of just missed out on that, I guess. Until one of my aunts asked me if I could take my cousins to see The Force Awakens.
Hmm.
And I was like, yeah, sure. Like you're paying for me to go see a movie. I'll go.
Mhm.
And I went to see it, and I was hyped. I fell in love with Han Solo. I was hyped. I ended up going back and watching all the original trilogy, the prequels, and I totally fell in love with it. Until the other two came out and it kind of fell off. And then I was like, oh, well, I guess I'm done with this.
Wow. So even someone who didn't grow up with the original trilogies didn't like The Last Jedi or Rise of Skywalker either, huh?
Not really. No. I
Interesting.
had a hard time getting into them.
I applaud you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Oh,
For
Harry
yeah.
Potter is another one I got
Okay.
into way too late. I
Uh,
didn't get into that until like a few years ago, but
really?
I ended up getting super into it once I watched the movies for the first time.
I never got into Harry Potter, so I think
Yeah, that's
like
fair.
even though like it was really big when I was like in high school and stuff, I think by then I was like just too old for it, and then I got into anime more. But I was really
That's
into
fair.
Pirates of the Caribbean. That was my movie series that I really got into then. When
Yeah, I was into that
yeah,
when I was like little.
oh
There
really?
was definitely a Halloween where I went as Jack Sparrow.
Yes. One of the best characters in the movies like
Of course, yeah.
series. Johnny Depp is just one of the best actors.
Yeah,
No
for
one can
sure.
argue. This is actually going to be a first here on the lounge. We're going to play a little trivia game.
Oh, I'm
So,
about to embarrass myself.
you got this. I believe in you.
Thanks.
Okay, this is 21 Pilots question. What is
Oh no.
Blurryface's real name?
Nicholas Bourbaki?
Good.
Cool.
Now,
Okay.
here's another one that I'm really interested to hear your answer for. What does the TOP logo mean?
I go back and forth on what it means because I think they made a logo that everybody can interpret differently. But one thing I always liked is like somebody made fan art of it once, and that's kind of what gave me this. I didn't come up with this, it's just stuck with me. But it's basically fan art of it's like Josh standing. And he's like reaching out and holding up Tyler as he falls when he does like the death drop in Heavy Dirty Soul. And that's
Yeah.
always stuck with me as like it's the band holding up the click
Mhm.
in a way. Like they're holding up their fans and reaching out to help. And that's always just that's what that logo has stuck with in my head for a
Mhm.
few years now.
That's a good answer. Yes, definitely. Like it feels like a friend holding up your other friend from falling.
Mm.
Where did Tyler get the name 21 Pilot?
Oh, that was from the All My Sons by Arthur Miller, right? That book.
Yes. Hmm.
Yeah.
So this is what I ask all my guests here on the lounge here at the end is what is next? What is next for Ash? What is next for your cosplay?
There's a lot coming. Basically, the past month, I haven't done any Spidey stuff outside of like the spectacular photo shoot that I did
Mhm.
because I've been focused on Ren Fair costumes.
Mhm.
I made a Game of Thrones costume for my boyfriend, and I bought one for me to wear to Ren fairs and stuff. So I've been really focused on that, and Spidey stuff was kind of put on the back burner for a little bit.
Mhm.
But now that that's finally done, my goal is I have two Spidey suits I'd like to do by the end of the year, and then one non-Spidey cosplay that I really want to finish outside of the Game of Thrones stuff, which I will probably have a full like Game of Thrones photo shoot at some point just to show off because I finally got a wig and can do it properly. So, um
Mm.
yeah, it's the goal is two Spidey suits. I will say one of them is Mayday Parker. It's I really want to do a Spider-Girl suit.
Oh,
So,
nice.
that's one of them. The other one I'm going to keep a secret for now, but I will say it's a seven-piece suit. It'll be my first seven-piece suit. So,
Wow, 7 pieces. That's gonna take a
yeah.
while to put on. You're gonna make a whole video
Yeah.
about it, like.
Well, yeah, because
Mhm.
it's like a lot of people have been kind of going for it lately, just because it's the most like comic accurate. Of
Yeah.
like it's a shirt, pants, two gloves, two boots, and a mask, so it's like completely separated.
Mhm.
And I really want one.
Wow.
So I have an idea in mind. I don't know if it's gonna work out as well as I want it to, but
Mhm.
I'm gonna give it a shot, and we'll see what comes of it. I guess.
Sweet. Can't wait to see it. Can't wait to see any of that. Yeah, that'd be awesome to see you do some different cosplay, more 21 Pilots cosplay, and definitely more Spideys. So definitely keep the Spideys rolling.
I kind of
Yeah.
dug
Mhm.
myself into a hole that I don't think I'm going to be able to dig myself out of. So Spidey will always be, he will always have a place on my page, no matter what.
For sure. For sure. Yeah, Spider-Man is timeless. We all know and love him, and you definitely shine a different light on him, in this little universe here. So, from on behalf of all your fans, thank you so much for what you do and for all the content you provide.
You.
No problem. Thank you again so much, Ash, for joining us today.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I had a great time.
Give it up for Ash, everybody. Ooh. Alrighty.